Journeys of Return and Redemption, Zechariah, Chapter 6. The studio settles the way it does when a series has found its pace. Same table, same mics. The night vision map is still open from last time. Scroll, Ephah, Shinar, edges softened by coffee rings. Alex Rivera waits half a breath longer than usual, as if the chapter itself is asking not to be rushed. Welcome back to Journeys of Return and Redemption. Last time we sat with Zechariah 5, the flying curse that enters a house, the measuring basket that carries wickedness out of the land. Today is Zechariah 6, and I want to name a trap before we fall into it. This chapter can feel like one long dream. Chariots, bronze mountains, a crown, a man called the branch. If you read it the way I first read it, the crowning of Joshua slides right into the vision stream like one more special effect. It isn't. The text changes mode mid-chapter, and if we miss that seam, we will mishear almost everything that follows. He glances down the panel. So here is our work. We finish the last night vision. We mark where the vision ends and life narration begins. Then we go in order. First, Joshua, the high priest who actually receives the crown. Second, the branch, the one the crown is finally about. And then how the whole chapter ties. Purged land, patrolled earth, signed leadership, and a hope that will not leave holiness and rule at war with each other. Dr. Naomi has a finger already on the chapter break that is not a chapter break. Street first, then seam. Same rebuild generation we have been walking. Returned exiles, temple unfinished, Persian sky overhead, neighbors measuring every stone. Chapter 5 dealt with what kind of people and what kind of system can live around a holy house. Chapter 6 opens still in vision language. Zechariah lifts his eyes again. 4 chariots come out from between 2 mountains of bronze. Red horses. Black. White. Dappled and strong. The angel does not leave him guessing. These are the 4 spirits of heaven going out after standing before the Lord of all the earth. Black toward the north. White after them. Dappled toward the south. The strong ones strain to patrol the earth, and they are sent. They go. And then the report lands. Those who go to the north country have given my spirit rest in the north country. Thomas nods like a man who has watched a system leave idle and then take load. After Chapter 5's purge language, this is global pressure, not interior decorating. The god who seals wickedness for Shinar is not a local mascot. His patrol reaches the directions that matter to a people who remembered armies coming from the north. Rest of the spirit there is not a weather report. It is the claim that the powers that used to unsettle them are under assignment. The vision does not end with the prophet still staring at horses forever. It ends when the work of those chariots is spoken as done enough for rest. Rabbi Jonah looks up from the page with the kind of care that protects a reader from his own blur. And that is where many of us, myself included, the first time through, keep reading as if the dream continues. Listen to how verse 8 closes and how verse 9 opens. The vision stream has been eyes and seeing and angelic interpretation. Then, the word of the Lord came to me. Not, I lifted my eyes again. Word, command. Named men who have come from Babylon, Heldai, Tobijah, Jediah. Go the same day to the house of Josiah son of Zephaniah. Take silver and gold, make a crown, set it on the head of Joshua son of Jehozadak, the high priest. He lets the logistics hang in the air like tools on a workbench. That is not night furniture. That is a same-day errand with real metal and real neighbors. Vision ends at verse 8. Life narration begins at verse 9. The crowning is a symbolic act in waking history, sign language worn on a man's head, not the 9th chariot rolling through the prophet's sleep. Sophia's mouth tightens, then softens. I needed that, because if the crown is only dream, I can admire it and leave it on the pillow. If it is silver melted from exile gifts and pressed onto a priest who has to walk back through the camp, then return has a face. Someone has to stand there while the meaning is heavier than the gold. Alex steers with a light hand. Good. Hold the seam. Naomi, give us Joshua first, not the branch yet. First the man who wears the sign. Naomi answers without hurry. Joshua son of Jehozadak is not a new character in this book. Chapter 3 already dragged him into the light. Filthy garments, accuser standing by, clean clothes and a clean turban given by grace, a charge to walk in the Lord's ways. He is the high priest of a community, trying to put worship back on its feet. In chapter 6 he does not invent a kingdom for himself. He receives a crown because God tells the prophet to put one there. First movement of the focus. The historical priest, the sign-bearer, the man whose head becomes a public parable. He is not the full meaning. He is the address where the meaning is delivered. Thomas leans in. In engineering, we use a prototype that is not the final product but has to be real enough to teach the system. Joshua is not cosplay. He is priest in a half-built city. When the text says set the crown on his head, it is doing something almost dangerous in a culture that knows priests and kings are different offices. God is willing to put royal metal on a priestly scalp so no one can pretend the hope is only private spirituality or only political muscle. First, look at Joshua. Feel the weight. Do not sprint past him to your favorite fulfillment verse and leave the sign empty. Jonah's voice stays low, precise, and the oracle does not leave him as the endpoint. Once the crown is on, the word of the Lord of hosts speaks. Behold the man whose name is the branch. He will branch out from his place. He will build the temple of the Lord. He will bear majesty. He will sit and rule on his throne. There will be a priest on his throne, or a priest by that throne depending how the line is heard in English, and the counsel of peace will be between them both. Second movement, the branch. Temple builder, royal rule, priestly presence. Peace between the offices that human history keeps splitting into rivals. Sophia almost whispers. Peace between them both. That line is doing pastoral work. We know what it costs when spiritual authority and governing power treat each other like enemies, or when one pretends to be the other. The text is not romantic about power. It is hungry for harmony under God. Father Elias has been quiet, hands folded, waiting for the sign to be honored before the gospel bridge. Keep the order the chapter gives. First, Joshua, the cleansed priest wearing a crown he does not get to redefine. Second, the branch, the one the sign is about. Then the New Testament's confession that Jesus is the one in whom priest and king finally stop competing. He builds a temple of living stones. He sits and rules. He is the priest who can stand for us because he is also the king who can keep us. Hebrews does not erase Zechariah 6. It hears it. But if we start with our systematic charts and never let Joshua's neck feel the metal, we turn a story into a diagram. The redemption line runs through a real high priest's head in a dusty post-exile week. Alex smiles without breaking the gravity. Jonah, branch trail, short. We already named him in chapter 3. Don't rebuild the whole library. Show the thread. Jonah nods. Chapter 3. My servant the branch. Jeremiah had already spoken of a righteous branch who reigns as king and does justice. Psalm 110 holds king at the right hand and priest forever after Melchizedek's order in one song. Zechariah 6 is not inventing a mashup for clever readers. It is staging, in a public act, the hope that the rebuilt house will not be orphaned, neither without a builder king nor without a priest who can stand in holy space. The crown becomes a memorial in the temple for the men who gave the silver and gold. Even the donors' names are kept, and those who are far off will come and help build. The unit ends with a knowing that is conditional in the text itself. You will know the Lord of hosts has sent me if you diligently obey his voice. Vision gave rest in the north. Life asks for obedient ears at home. Naomi lifts one finger. That last line keeps the episode from floating. Far-off builders and a memorial crown sound like success language. Obedience keeps it covenantal. Return is not a parade float. It is a people who hear. Alex gathers the table. So how does it all tie? Thomas, structure. Sophia, heart. Elias, cross without leaving the chapter behind. Thomas answers first. Structure. Chapter 5 removes what corrupts the measure and the house. Chapter 6's vision shows the earth under patrol and the spirits rest where threat used to ride. Then life narration installs a sign of the leadership hope the house needs, priest and king not at war. You cannot rebuild a sanctuary on fraud, export wickedness in a basket, and then shrug at who stands over the work. The systems belong together, purity of the community, sovereignty over the nations, and a crown promise that holiness and rule will meet in peace. Sophia's eyes are bright the way they get when a text refuses to stay antique. Heart. Some of us live as if God's work is only interior. Quiet feelings, private visions, no public obedience. Others of us want crowns and platforms and never want a priest's conscience near our power. Zechariah 6 will not let either half win. The vision ends. You still have to walk to someone's house the same day. You still have to put weight on a real head. And you still have to hear that the sign points beyond the man you can see to the branch who can actually hold both offices without crushing the people. For anyone coming home from exile habits, performance religion, borrowed authority, split lives, this chapter says the night does not last forever, and morning still has errands. Elias finishes without a second sermon. Christ does not cancel the seam. He justifies our trust in what the seam points to. The curse that hunted houses found him. The wickedness that needed exporting meets a holiness that does not share the house. The branch who builds the temple is the same Lord who makes peace by the blood of his cross. Not peace as slogan, but peace between what our sin put asunder. God and people, and the offices we keep trying to grab for ourselves. Joshua wore a crown for a day so we would recognize the man, whose head wears many crowns, and whose hands still bear the marks of a priestly sacrifice. Return is possible, because redemption is personal before it is programmatic. Alex lets the room breathe, then turns to the listeners beyond the glass. If you came in thinking Zechariah 6 was only more night imagery, leave with the seam marked on your page. Verses 1 through 8, the last vision, chariots, directions, spirit at rest in the north. Verse 9 onward, the word of the Lord in waking life. Exile silver, a house visit, a crown on Joshua the high priest. First, Joshua, the sign. Second, the branch, temple, throne, priest, peace between both. And the tie, a God who purges, patrols, and promises leadership that will not split holiness from rule, then calls a people to obey so that knowing him stays more than a theory. The return from exile is not finished when the dreams stop. It is finished when the community can tell the difference between what God showed in the night and what he commands in the day, and still says yes to both. He leans in for the familiar close. I'm Alex Rivera, and this has been Journeys of Return and Redemption.